to our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
I learned that you were born in South America and then brought up in Canada, educated and working abroad now.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about your background.
Okay. Well, I was born in South America, and I grew up in Canada. I was educated there, and my family is from a diverse background. Part of my family is Muslim and part is Christian. So I grew up with, and I think Canada also is a very diverse country, and so I always grew up with diversity, and I'm attracted to different ideas and thoughts. And the Baha'i faith, with its teachings about unity and diversity, harmony of science and religion, equality of men and women, the oneness of religion and the oneness of humanity really attracted me to it.
Why did you become a Baha'i?
I'm from a very diverse background in terms of my family being partly Christian and then another part Muslim. And so it was, for me, a difficult thing. I felt like I couldn't choose between the two. But the Baha'i faith believed in all religions. And so for me, that was easier to accept and was a very attractive feature.
How can one believe in all religions?
I guess because the Baha'i faith believes in progressive revelation, that humanity is kind of always progressing and growing, and so is in need of a divine teacher. That over time and place, there are different messengers, and so which explains the multiplicity of prophets and religions.
I think communal harmony is the greatest challenge for India. Do you think the Baha'i faith has a solution for this?
I think that the Baha'i faith, there are features in it that I like very much, and one of it is the portion, no electioneering during elections. So the Baha'i faith, without a clergy and with only elected officials representing its collective interests and collective kind of administrative order, I think that protects it in a way, because there's a kind of wisdom that often identity is used in politics or by religious leaders to not necessarily to the benefit of unity and peace, but when there's no electioneering as part of the kind of collective order, it prevents identity to be used and undermined, and people to be pit against each other.
Do the Baha'is read all the holy scriptures and accept all the prophets?
Yes.
I mean, a Baha'i can read Bible and the Quran and the Gita.
Yes.
And how do you accept all the teachings of all the prophets? Is there no contradiction in them?
For me, there is, over time and place, different interpretations and different recordings. We have to remember that the religious writings are Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, is the only one who hand wrote his own writings. And before that, Muhammad, somebody wrote the writings, and it was read to him, and he okayed it. And before that, it was usually recorded after the prophet was gone. So over time, I think, and also the teachings are specific to place and time, where the Baha'i faith is supposed to be for all of humanity, and for this particular time.
I think this seems to be a very big revolution in human thinking, because at this stage, to me, it seems unity is the most important need of our time. So do you think Baha'i faith has that vision of world unity?
I think unity is the fundamental teaching of the faith, and which is very powerful, because I think a lot of the suffering and problems in the world are due to the lack of our unity of thought and even our physical collective unity, the absence of a governance system to govern our global affairs, to think that our affairs are separated from each other and what we do on one side of the world doesn't affect people on the other side of the world is not accurate. It's not true.
How can the world share the resources that are there on Earth?
I think this already happens. We already share the resources. It's not to say that there is not enough food in the world. There's enough food to feed all the people in the world. But getting it from one place to the next, or growing it and delivering it to where the people are, that's for me more of a logistic challenge. I think there are a lot of logistical problems with us.
Do you think spirituality would help in sharing rather than being possessive about one's land or resources?
I think global affairs is far more complex in terms of just sharing. There are many factors at play. Power and politics and money plays a part of it, but I don't think that that is really the issue in terms of, I don't think it's sharing. I think humanity in general they're very generous and willing to share, but I think there are issues of justice and equality.
These are very important issues. Yes. Zorida, you work very hard. Is there a teaching in the Baha'i faith on work?
Yes, I think there are lots of teachings that relate to work, but I think in the Baha'i faith, the teaching of service and work is worship is very important to me. Work is worship for me means work in the service of the betterment of the world and service to humanity and betterment of oneself as well. I think when you're serving humanity and serving the betterment of the world, it is strengthening your relationship with God.
And does it lead to a lot of personal satisfaction? Working for oneself, working for others?
I think, my friend and I recently had a conversation about where people are in their lives. On the one hand, you have people who are kind of geared towards happiness, are satisfied with happiness and comfort. And then on the other spectrum, I think there are people who are after truth, who seek truth and service and fulfillment and personal growth. And these two are almost not always, you cannot have all four of these things. You cannot have at the same time. You kind of have to choose where you want to be in the spectrum of
religion
things.
is often associated with detachment. So when we are talking about work, what is the situation with regard to detachment from the worldly affairs?
I guess for me, when work is geared towards service and betterment of the world, rather than accumulation of wealth, even accumulation of wealth, if it's being used for a purpose, there's a goal, there's something developing, innovating technology, innovating things to make the world a better place, there's that place. But detachment is more an emotional, spiritual state of consciousness. And of course it translates into your material actions.
Can one still be concerned with the world and yet be detached from it?
I think, yes, that is possible. It's a very philosophical question. It all depends on the path of service is a personal one for each person. I think detachment is a complicated topic.
What advice would you give to the youth?
I would say to focus on service and collaboration. I think for me, I do put emphasis on material education, institutionalized education, but I think a lot of what I've learned over the years is and has kept me strong in the path of service and has helped my career is actually those soft skills, like interpersonal skills that you develop from collaborating and consulting with others. And so technical knowledge is important, but it's changing all the time, and so you should be using the internet and using applications online to acquire breadth and depth of knowledge on a variety of topics. It's not enough to just know accounting or math. It really has to be understood in other discoveries and innovations that are happening.
So one has to be in a learning mode all the time.
Yes, and learning happens both theoretically and practically. So you learn by listening, by reading, taking in information, but you learn by teaching as well and
So if one
doing.
were to develop oneself, do you think they would get the jobs they want, or be placed well in life? Like you are placed very highly as Consul of the Canadian High Commission in India.
I think that it's important to develop yourself and always do research. I'm always surprised when youth ask me, how do I get a job at so-and-so business? And I say, well, you would have to first go on their website and find out how to apply for a job, research how to present your resume. These are very simple technical things, how to do an interview, and how to present what your ideas are understand what that company does. And why are you interested in it? What do you bring to their organization? The same when applying for university, to understand what are you going to do with that knowledge, and to have that clarity and vision for but do the research and do the work.
Yeah, so it's very nice to know that in the Baha'i faith there's no contradiction in being spiritual and working in the world and being a part of the world. How do you see the future of the world?
I'm very hopeful about the future. I'm very excited about all the changes and innovations that are happening. I'm particularly interested in artificial intelligence and blockchain technology and what that will do. Robotics, it's changing really the face of humanity.
Very fast, yes.
Some of my concerns are, is how much people work, almost like slave laborers. In many parts of the world, people work 6 days a week, leaving very little time on very long hours, leaving very little time for service, for spirituality, for family, for travel, for personal development. I do hope that people will work less and spend more time
have
reflecting.
a more balanced life.
I
think that family life is being affected, personal health is being affected as we are working now. So
there's research to suggest, because of our medical innovations and a more educated population, people are going to live longer. And I think that has implications on things like pensions, health care. So I'm very interested in those topics.
So do you think that there will be a welfare state in the future?
I think that the future, for things to really be balanced, there will be collaborative efforts between private and public sectors, because to expect the public sector to provide welfare to all the people, it will not just happen like that. There has to be a value amongst the people that this is important, and a shared responsibility or a collaborative approach to delivering services.
You raised or mentioned two very important things, equality and justice. I think that's what the world is hungry for, and that's what all the wars and fight is about. The very rich and the very poor, whether it is the states or the people. So if the world has to be at peace and it has to be united, then these two important principles of justice and equality have to be looked at very closely so that prosperity of humankind can be achieved.
I think when I came to India at first, I thought to myself, and I've spent cumulatively around 5 years, over 5 years in India. I wanted to understand why there exists extremes of wealth and poverty. And I'm feeling like I understand it a little bit better, but it's a very complicated matter. And I don't think I think extreme wealth is very much possible in the world, and I don't think in itself it's an evil. When I think of Facebook making millions, billions of dollars, but what it concerns me is what that is it uses personal information from people, and they don't get any benefits from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the social contract between the private and public and citizens.
I think that's very well said.
In the Baha'i faith, we talk a lot about the three kind of constituent parties. You have the community, institutions, and individuals, and there has to be a collaboration and a common understanding between these three parties in any kind of social enterprise.
Any other message you would like to give to our viewers and to the youth in particular?
I think I would encourage youth to definitely participate in the youth program, where they are not to understand its value, experience it, and understand it, because it has really helped me as a person professionally and personally, spiritually develop. And studying together has a great value, and it really helps the spirit and gives balance to one's life.
Thank you very much, Zorida. It was very beautiful. The vision you shared for the world, it's very hopeful, very positive, and we see a lot of negativity in the world. So I think our viewers would gain a sense of the future and a happy future, and we all have to work towards this. So thank you again for joining us on this channel.
Thank you for having me.